Welcome to the Sleepy Cosmos channel, a place where science and serenity meet. Here we explore the quiet wonders of the universe, from dark matter to string theory, all told in a calm, soothing rhythm designed to help you relax, drift, and dream among the stars. Each video is a guided journey through the cosmos, slow, meditative, and filled with real science wrapped in gentle storytelling. So if you love space, curiosity, and the peaceful side of knowledge, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe for more new sleep narrations every week. And if you'd like to reach out for collaborations or business inquiries, you can contact us at the sleepycosmoschannel@gmail.com. Now, settle in, take a deep breath, and let's drift into the universe together. You are here now, held gently in a quiet moment, a moment that asks nothing of you, a moment that stretches softly across the space inside your mind, like a calm tide moving across a still shore. As you settle into your own rhythm, your breath drifting in and drifting out, the world begins to loosen, just enough for curiosity to breathe and for rest to unfold. There is something soothing about letting the mind wander into deep questions, not with urgency, not with tension, but with the spacious calm of night, when the cosmos feels close and the boundary between thought and dream becomes thin. Tonight, you and the universe will drift together, gently, into one of the oldest and most quietly astonishing questions of science, a question whispered by mathematicians, physicists, philosophers, and by anyone who has ever stared at the stars and wondered, what is everything made of, beneath the surface, beneath the matter, beneath the motion, beneath the noise? Is reality, in its deepest form, made of information? Not information in the casual sense, not facts or numbers or human meanings, but information as nature understands it, as the pure connective tissue of cause and effect, the pattern within patterns, the structure that makes physical things behave the way they do, the quiet logic behind the world's unfolding. As you listen, you may feel the question opening like a slow wave, not demanding an answer, only inviting you into its depth. Its edges are soft, its surface is calm, and every thought within it moves with the drifting gentleness of starlight across a dark horizon. Information, in the language of physics, means something very specific. It means the arrangement of possibilities, the constraints that shape what can happen and what cannot. It is the hidden architecture behind energy, behind matter, behind space itself. And as you relax deeper into this moment, you may begin to sense that information, real information, is not a human concept layered on top of the world, but a property of the world itself, woven into everything, from the smallest quantum fluctuations to the slow swirling of galaxies. Let the mind soften, not to grasp the idea, but to let the idea drift through you, like a faint breeze moving through an open room, gentle, barely noticeable, yet undeniably present. When physicists describe the universe, they rarely describe objects first. They describe relationships, fields, rules, constraints, symmetries. These are all forms of information. They describe what the universe allows and what it forbids, what can exist and what cannot. Even the most familiar things, a grain of dust, a beam of light, a drifting thought inside your mind, are shaped by layers of invisible rules. Each rule a small piece of information, quietly guiding the flow of reality. And as strange as it may sound, the more deeply scientists study the world, the more the physical seems to dissolve into the abstract. Matter becomes a set of excitations in underlying fields. Fields become mathematical structures. Mathematical structures become information, encoded in the laws that govern them. It is here, in this gentle dissolving, that the question starts to feel less like speculation and more like a whisper of truth. If you feel your body beginning to grow heavier or lighter, or simply more at ease, let that ease settle deeper. Let it spread softly, like ink diffusing through water, slow, effortless, unhurried. The question we are drifting through is not meant to excite. It is meant to cradle the mind in a new way of seeing, a way that reveals the subtle, the hidden, the underlying texture of existence. Because if everything is information, then reality is not made of things, but of relationships, patterns, constraints, and the continual transformation of one state of information into another, moment by moment, breath by breath. The universe, in this view, is not a machine built from solid parts, but a vast tapestry of interactions, where every event, no matter how small, carries a signature, a trace, a pattern of information woven into the whole. Just as a melody is not the notes themselves, but the relationship between them, the universe may be something like a melody of information, playing quietly through time, ever unfolding, ever changing, yet grounded in rules so deep they feel almost eternal. As you lie here listening, breathing, resting, you become part of that unfolding. Every atom in your body, every electric whisper in your nervous system, every signal flowing between neurons is part of the cosmos's slow and continuous processing of information. You are not separate from this question. You are a participant in it, a living expression of it. Your thoughts, your memories, your awareness itself are made of patterns, stored, transmitted, transformed. They are information, moving gently through the biological architecture of your brain. And in this calm, this quiet, this drifting space, you may begin to sense the elegance of it, the simplicity, the softness. The universe, seen through the lens of information, no longer feels chaotic or harsh. It feels ordered, subtle, almost contemplative, as if reality itself is engaged in a quiet computation, unfolding each moment with infinite patience and infinite precision. Your breath moves in and out, and with it, the universe processes a little more information, every molecule of air meeting your body, every electron shifting position, every photon softly emitted by your skin. All of these movements, tiny, delicate, almost imperceptible, are part of nature's vast and continuous bookkeeping, the quiet accounting of existence. For now, there is nothing to do, nothing to solve, nothing to understand fully. Just let the question rest beside you, like a gentle companion. What if everything is information? What if matter, energy, space, time, and even awareness are all expressions of something deeper, something abstract, yet profoundly real? Something that gives the universe its structure, its coherence, its unfolding rhythm. Feel how naturally the mind begins to slow, as if it trusts the softness of the question, as if the cosmos itself were humming quietly around you, a hum made not of sound but of structure, order, and woven connections, information flowing from moment to moment, guiding the world ever forward. You do not need to follow every idea. You do not need to remember anything. You only need to drift and breathe, and let the thought of information, subtle and weightless, float around you like dust motes in a beam of moonlight. There is a kind of serenity in imagining that the universe is not chaotic, but deeply organized, not random, but patterned, not fragmented, but connected. Right now, as your body softens into stillness, you are floating inside that grand organization, that silent logic, that infinite and gentle architecture. Let everything slow. Let everything grow quiet. Let the mind rest, drift, and open softly to the possibility that everything around you, everything within you, and everything beyond you is part of an endless ocean of information, structured, flowing, transforming, and whispering reality into being, moment after moment, with quiet, cosmic patience. And as your thoughts begin to dissolve into softer shapes, you may notice that the space within you feels calmer, more spacious, more open to rest. This is exactly where you're meant to be, in a place of curiosity without effort, a place of understanding without pressure, a place where the cosmos feels close and the night feels infinite. Everything is information. Perhaps, perhaps not. But the question, gentle and vast, is yours to drift with as you settle deeper into quiet, into softness, into the long, slow, calm tide of the universe thinking through you. The mind drifts now, gently, as if floating on a quiet sea of thought. And in this drifting, a new kind of clarity begins to unfold, a clarity built not from tension, but from softness, from slow understanding, from the simple act of letting ideas settle, one gentle layer at a time. When physicists look at the universe, they no longer begin with solid objects. They begin with fields, smooth, continuous, everywhere, even in the space that seems empty. These fields are not things you can touch or see, but they fill all of reality. They carry energy, they ripple, they vibrate, and those vibrations, those tiny shimmering fluctuations, are what we call particles. A particle, whether it is an electron, a photon, or a quark, is not a little physical object, not a bead, not a grain, not a miniature sphere floating in the void. It is an excitation, a small disturbance in an underlying field. The way a ripple on a pond is a disturbance in water, and a ripple is not an object, it is a pattern, a shape, a specific configuration that carries information about how the water is moving, where it came from, how strong it is, and how it will evolve, moment by moment. In this view, matter itself becomes something strange, something softer, something more abstract. Matter is not a collection of tiny balls. It is information encoded in the structure, the vibration, the behavior of fields, fields that respond to rules. And those rules are mathematical, precise, quiet, and endlessly patient. Every field has equations that describe how it behaves, how its ripples move, how its disturbances interact. These equations do not simply model the fields. They are the fields. The laws do not sit outside of reality. They constitute reality. And mathematics in its purest form is information, organized, structured, compressed, made intelligible. The more deeply you relax into this understanding, the more the surfaces of things dissolve, and the more the world begins to feel like something woven rather than assembled, like something encoded rather than built. A field that fills the universe, governed by equations, expressed as patterns. These layers point toward a remarkable possibility that everything we call physical is an expression of information, information moving through rules, rules moving through time, time moving through the quiet engine of the cosmos. Let the mind rest softly with that. Feel how the idea stretches out inside you, calm, weightless, like a sheet of silk unfurling in slow motion. When physicists write down equations, they are not inventing patterns. They are discovering constraints. They are uncovering the information the universe uses to govern itself. Information that determines how one moment becomes the next. Information that defines how energy flows, how matter interacts, how motion unfolds. This is why so many scientists say the universe is not just made of matter, but of mathematics. And mathematics, at its core, is the purest form of information. And in a quiet way, this means that reality might be simpler than we think. Not simpler in appearance, but in essence, because if all matter, all forces, all interactions are encoded in a small set of equations, then nature is practicing something extraordinary. So something that resembles compression. Imagine a vast library, filled with an infinite number of books, each book describing a different corner of reality, every particle, every motion, every event. Now imagine that the entire library, with all its infinite detail, could be reduced to a small set of principles, a handful of rules, a compact structure that produces enormous richness. This is what compression means, taking something vast and representing it with something small, something elegant, something deeply efficient. Physics, in many ways, is the study of that compression, that hidden elegance, those compact rules that generate the complexity we call the universe. And those rules, those deeply compressed descriptions, are information, information that nature uses continuously to guide its unfolding. As you feel your breath rise and fall, you are participating in this flow. Every molecule of air, every exchange of energy, every fluctuation in your body follows the same rules, the same constraints, the same informational architecture that governs stars and galaxies and the invisible fields that permeate space. In the background of reality, there is a subtle computation happening, not computation in the human sense, with devices and electricity and circuits, but computation in the deepest sense, the updating of information moment by moment, the universe calculating its own evolution, not consciously, not deliberately, but as a consequence of its structure, its rules, its patterns, its informational core. And here a single principle becomes especially important, a principle discovered by physicist Rolf Landauer, a principle that gently but firmly ties information to the physical world. Landauer showed that information is not abstract. It cannot exist without a physical system to hold it. To erase information, to reset a bit, requires energy. It produces heat. It leaves a physical trace. This means information is not a metaphor in physics. It is a measurable quantity with real consequences, real energy, real behavior. In other words, information is physical. And because it is physical, it is part of the fabric of the universe, part of the way reality works, part of the structure that gives rise to everything else. Let that drift through you, softly like a whisper. Information is physical. Information is a property of the world. Information is not added by the mind. It is woven into the universe's own structure. This is why many scientists now describe the universe as something that computes itself, not in the artificial sense, but in the natural sense, where every interaction, every exchange, every transformation is an update, a ripple, a propagation of information through fields and forces, from one moment to the next. If a photon travels across space, its motion, its frequency, its interactions are information being preserved, transmitted, and transformed. If an atom emits light, the transition between energy levels is a tiny calculation, following rules shaped by information. If two particles collide, they exchange data, constraints, quantities that must be conserved. The outcome is not random, it is guided by the informational architecture of the laws of nature. The entire universe, from the flow of galaxies to the flicker of neurons, to the quiet rhythm of your breath, is part of this continuous transformation. Information moving, information flowing, information shaping the unfolding of time. Let the idea settle, gently, like dust on a quiet surface. There is no rush, no pressure, just the thought, floating, that perhaps the universe is not a machine, but an algorithm, not a collection of objects, but a collection of relationships. And in those relationships, information is the thread, the glue, the essence, the invisible structure that everything else emerges from. In the softness of this moment, your mind can drift through that idea without resistance, without effort. It can flow like water, filling the shape of the thought, without needing to grasp it tightly. Matter and energy are excitations of fields. Fields are described by equations. Equations are encoded as information. Physics is a compression algorithm. Information is physical, and the universe computes itself, moment by moment, through the quiet unfolding of these informational patterns. All the core ideas here have now gently woven themselves through the air around you, settling into the spaces of your mind with calm, clarity, and softness. In the quiet space of thought, a new kind of uncertainty begins to shimmer. Not an unsettling uncertainty, but a gentle one. A soft dissolving of rigid expectations, a loosening of the grip we often place on the idea that reality must be solid, predictable, and perfectly knowable. Quantum physics, with its whispering probabilities, its delicate amplitudes, its strange dances of possibility, arrives like a cool breeze moving through a still room, unexpected, yet calming. It invites the mind to relax its need for definite edges, and instead float on a sea of potential, where things are not fixed but fluid, not decided but unfolding, not objects but waves of information, gently overlapping in quiet superpositions. A quantum state is not a thing, it is a description of all the ways something could be, a mathematical encoding of possibilities, rich, layered, subtle. Imagine a single electron, not as a tiny bead moving through space, but as a vast cloud of potential, a pattern of amplitudes, each amplitude gently describing how likely the electron is to be found in one place or another. Each amplitude holds information, not about what is, but about what might be, information woven into the complex numbers of the wave function, numbers that do not represent certainties but probabilities, interfering, merging, canceling, reinforcing, like ripples crossing on a still pond. In this quiet, it becomes clear that quantum mechanics does not describe objects. It describes information, information encoded in probability, information that flows through equations, information that shapes what can happen but does not dictate the outcome. And in that softness, in that gentle openness, the mind can drift without needing definite answers, without needing the sharpness of classical logic. It can simply rest within the shimmering boundary between what is real and what is merely possible. When an observation is made, when the world interacts with itself, something remarkable happens. The soft cloud of potential collapses, the probabilities narrow, the wave function, once wide and drifting, becomes sharp, specific, defined. An event emerges, a single piece of reality, pulled from the ocean of possibility. This process, subtle and quiet, is not simply a measurement, it is a conversion, a transformation of information. Information that once described many states now describes one. This is not magic, it is physics. But it is physics that challenges our intuition, because the universe seems to delay its decision, holding all possible paths open, until information forces a choice, until interaction constrains what can be, and narrows reality into a single outcome. There is something profoundly tranquil in this idea that the world does not rush, that it waits, calmly, holding potential, until information arrives, until interaction shapes the moment, until possibility becomes actuality. The wave function, gentle, mathematical, dreamlike, is not just a tool for calculation, it is a carrier of information, a complete description of the state of a system, not in terms of where it is, but in terms of what is possible. It tells nature how a particle will behave, how it will interfere, how it will spread, how it will evolve through time. It is an informational blueprint, not of certainties, but of potentials, shaped by the quiet rules of quantum dynamics. And even when a system is left alone, no observation, no measuring device, no conscious mind, its wave function still evolves, smoothly, predictably, based on Schrödinger's equation, an equation that tells information how to flow, how to stretch, how to twist, how to drift through the vast landscape of possibility. But the universe is never truly isolated. Particles interact, fields overlap, photons scatter. Even the tiniest contact with the environment causes information to spread, causes possibilities to entangle, causes the sharpness of outcomes to fade. This gentle leaking of information into the surrounding world is called decoherence, and it makes the once mysterious collapse feel less like a sudden event and more like a natural diffusion, a quiet blending of quantum information with the environment, until the system becomes tangled with everything around it, until the delicate superposition can no longer be sustained, and what remains is a classical-looking world formed from the residue of lost quantum coherence. This is why the everyday world seems solid, predictable, definite, not because quantum mechanics disappears, but because information spreads so quickly, so widely, that the fragile quantum patterns melt into ordinary experience, leaving behind the illusion of certainty. An illusion built from the faint traces of decoherence. Let your breath soften, let your mind drift. Imagine quantum information, subtle and delicate, spreading outward like ripples, mingling with air molecules, photons, dust motes, until an entire environment becomes part of the informational tapestry, until the world, by simply existing, acts as a vast and gentle measuring device, always absorbing, redistributing, and transforming information. Here, in this quiet interplay, the nature of reality feels different. Not a collection of fixed things, but a flowing network of information exchanges, each interaction collapsing possibilities, each moment updating the world, each fluctuation shaping what comes next. This update, this constant refinement of the world's informational state, may be what we call reality, not static, not absolute, but emergent, arising from the gentle weave of probabilities resolving into outcomes, moment by moment, quietly, softly, endlessly. What appears solid is information made definite. What appears random is information selecting one branch of possibility. What appears continuous is information evolving smoothly, guided by equations, the universe's silent instructions, unfolding through time. There is a kind of serenity in this perspective. A serenity that comes from accepting that uncertainty is not a flaw, but a feature, that probability is not ignorance, but structure, that reality, in its deepest form, is not built from certainty, but from information, encoded in amplitudes, transformed through interactions, and crystallized through decoherence. As your body relaxes, as your thoughts drift like slow clouds across an open sky, you can feel the strange comfort in this idea, that the universe, even in its quantum unpredictability, is deeply organized, deeply patterned, deeply mathematical, not chaotic, not capricious, but quietly structured through information. And the laws that guide it, quantum mechanics, with its shimmering probabilities, its fragile superpositions, its entangled states, is not randomness. It is order, expressed in the language of possibilities. It is structure, expressed as probability amplitudes. It is information, expressed in its purest form. And as you drift and breathe and soften, you can feel how naturally the mind adapts to this view. A world built from information, flowing, merging, updating, resolving, like a dream slowly taking shape, not all at once, but through a sequence of informational transitions that give rise to the solid world you know. All the core ideas here have now been gently and fully woven into your awareness, settling calmly, like evening mist across a quiet landscape. There is a quiet order beneath the surface of the world, an order that holds everything together, a kind of gentle accounting, an ongoing tally of what exists, what has happened, and what could happen. This quiet bookkeeping is not figurative, it is built into the structure of nature, woven into every process, every particle, every exchange. And at the center of this quiet accounting lies entropy, a measure of what is missing, what is unknown, what is hidden behind the smooth mask of the physical world. Entropy, in the softest, simplest sense, is missing information. Not chaos, not disorder in the everyday meaning, but information that is inaccessible, information that has been spread out, thinned, diluted into the vast openness of the universe, until no observer, no experiment, no calculation can bring it back into perfect clarity. Imagine holding a deck of cards, perfectly stacked, perfectly arranged, every card in order, every card known, exactly where it belongs. The information is complete, present, contained. The entropy is low because nothing is hidden, nothing is uncertain. Now imagine shuffling the deck, not in a hurried way, but slowly, methodically, the cards slipping past one another, mixing. The order dissolves, not chaotically, but quietly. The information that once described the position of every card fades into uncertainty, still present in theory, but lost to your mind, lost to your senses, lost to the reach of any practical calculation. The entropy rises because the information becomes inaccessible, spread out over too many possibilities. This is how the universe behaves at every scale. Entropy increases, not because nature forgets, but because information moves, flows, spreads outward, beyond reach, beyond recovery, into the intricate web of interactions that fill the world. As your breath rises and falls, you can imagine this spreading of information not as noise, but as a soft diffusion, a gentle mist drifting outward, merging with the environment, becoming part of something wider, something vaster, something untraceable, yet still present, still real, still silently counted by the universe. Because nature, despite everything, never truly forgets. Information at the deepest physical level is conserved. It is not destroyed, not erased, only transformed, translated, encoded into subtler forms, forms that are so finely distributed, so intricately woven into the fabric of the world, that from a human perspective, they seem lost forever. But the universe keeps its own records, in its own way, through laws and principles that hold information sacred, preserving it, even when it seems to vanish. This becomes especially clear in the presence of black holes, those silent cosmic thresholds where gravity grows dense and space folds inward. At the boundary of a black hole, the event horizon, something extraordinary happens. The surface, dark, smooth, impenetrable, begins to behave like a vast information storage device. Its area, not its volume, determines how much information can be stored. A surprising, almost paradoxical discovery that suggests something profound about the nature of space and the information it can contain. The black hole does not swallow information in the way we once feared. It encodes it onto its surface layer by layer, bit by bit, woven into a delicate structure, so subtle, so fine, that it surpasses every intuition we have about matter and space and storage. This discovery, that the surface of a black hole holds its information, not the interior, sparked an idea so beautiful, so haunting, that physicists still marvel at it. The universe might behave like a hologram, where the true information, the deepest encoding of reality, exists not inside, but on the boundaries, as if the world we experience in 3 dimensions is a projection, a gentle unfolding of information inscribed on a distant surface. But even before this idea reaches its full shape, the insight remains. Gravity, quantum fields, and information are intimately connected, bound together in ways that feel almost poetic. A reminder that the universe, even in its violence and enormity, remains committed to order, to balance, to the conservation of detail, even when that detail slips beyond our comprehension. Imagine now, entropy spreading through the cosmos, not as destruction, but as transformation, as information diffusing, spreading its wings, touching new regions of space, entangling with photons, with particles, with the slow currents of cosmic dust. Every interaction, every collision, every exchange of energy sends information flowing into new directions, like ripples moving across a vast and quiet sea, carrying traces of what once was, in patterns too delicate to reconstruct, but never lost, never erased. If you listen closely, within the stillness of your mind, you might sense that this movement, this spreading of information, is one of the most fundamental rhythms of the universe, an invisible current, always flowing, always expanding, always balancing the hidden with the revealed, the known with the unknown. Entropy rises, not as a sign of decay, but as a sign of information branching outward, touching more of the world, becoming part of larger wholes. And because of this, the universe evolves. Stars burn, galaxies form, life emerges, heat radiates into space, and everything, absolutely everything, follows a path shaped by the quiet rules of information and how it spreads. The increase of entropy, the drift toward greater uncertainty, is not chaos. It is the universe exploring all the states available to it, allowing information to fill the vast room of possibility. It is expansion, expression, the natural growth of complexity, the diffusion of detail across the canvas of existence. As you let your thoughts drift, you may sense that this process is gentle, not tense, not violent. It is simply the universe doing what it does, softly, inevitably, turning the highly ordered into the widely distributed, the concentrated into the extended, the contained into the shared. Even within your own body, this same informational rhythm plays out. Molecules collide, heat flows, energy disperses. Your cells release information into their surroundings, not consciously, not deliberately, but through the natural tendency of entropy to rise, to diffuse, to carry your body's microscopic histories outward, into the air, into the environment, into the world. At the grandest scale, the universe becomes a kind of accountant, always tallying, always maintaining the balance, never losing information, only transforming it, writing it into the fine structure of fields, into the delicate geometry of space-time, into the quiet whisper of particles drifting apart. The entire cosmos, by its nature, keeps its books, and every process, from the orbit of planets to the flicker of neurons, is part of that eternal accounting. And so, in the stillness of this moment, you can feel the underlying order, the quiet structure, the subtle balance that holds the world together. You can feel entropy, not as noise, but as a gentle spreading of information. A soft unfolding, a widening of the universe's memory. The surface of things holds more than it appears. The boundaries, the horizons, the edges, often store more information than the interiors. A lesson whispered by black holes and echoed by the mathematics of holography, reminding us that reality is always more layered, more intricate, more deeply woven than our senses suggest. And through all of this, the universe continues its silent work, counting, encoding, tracking, transforming, carrying information forward, from moment to moment, with endless patience and endless precision. All the ideas in this section have now been gently woven into your awareness, softly, like starlight settling on calm water. There is a quiet strangeness woven into the structure of space, a subtle whisper, soft, almost imperceptible, suggesting that the world we move through, the world we touch, the world we believe to be solid and three-dimensional, may not be the deepest version of itself, may not be the full story, may not even be the true stage upon which the universe unfolds. For more than a century, physicists have tried to reconcile the immense curving geometry of gravity with the delicate probabilistic machinery of quantum fields. And in that effort, a surprising idea emerged, a quiet, haunting possibility, that the universe, in all its depth, all its height, all its volume, may be the shadow of something more fundamental, information, inscribed not within space, but on its boundaries. This idea, gentle yet breathtaking, is known as the holographic principle. And although its mathematics runs deep, far deeper than a whisper of night, its essence can be felt, slowly, softly, like a dream forming at the edge of awareness. Imagine holding a sheet of holographic film. When you shine light upon it, a three-dimensional image appears, not within the film, but projected outward. The depth, the volume, the contours, all arise from information stored, not in 3 dimensions, but on a 2-dimensional surface. The image is not inside the sheet, it is encoded onto it, and the universe, quietly, mathematically, might behave in much the same way. This whisper began with black holes, where something extraordinary happens. When matter collapses, the inside shrinks, dwindles, becomes small. But the information content, the entropy, does not scale with the shrinking interior. It scales with the surface, the smooth, invisible horizon that surrounds the collapse. Not the volume, but the area. The skin of the black hole holds the information for everything within. This was the first hint. The first gentle nudge, that perhaps all of nature might follow a similar rule, that the deepest information, the true encoding of reality, might live on surfaces, on boundaries, on horizons, rather than in the interior depths we imagine so vividly. Let that idea drift for a moment, softly. The universe, from galaxies swirling across billions of light years to quantum fields humming beneath the fabric of space, might be projected from a distant surface, so delicate, so subtle. that it lies beyond direct perception, yet shapes everything within our experience. This does not make the world less real or less physical. It simply suggests that what we call three-dimensional reality may be the unfolding, the blossoming of a deeper informational layer, encoded in two dimensions, much like the light that brings a hologram to life. If this is true, then the space you inhabit, the distance between your thoughts, your breath, the stars, and the quiet darkness between galaxies, may all emerge from patterns etched not inside space, but on the cosmic horizon that encircles everything. This horizon is not a literal surface in the everyday sense, not a wall, not a barrier. It is a mathematical boundary, a place where the information of the universe might be stored, compressed, organized, waiting to be unfolded into the dimensional experience we recognize as reality. This unfolding, this emergence of space, is gentle, subtle, continuous, like a slow inhalation of the cosmos, drawing information into a form that can be experienced, lived, felt. The mathematics behind this idea, though intricate, carries a profound simplicity. The laws of physics, those quiet rules governing fields and forces, can be rewritten, not in terms of volumes, but in terms of surfaces. As if the universe is telling us, in its faint mathematical voice, that everything we see, everything we know, is part of a projection, a blossoming, a gentle expansion of information from something deeper, something quieter, something more foundational. Imagine walking across a room. Your motion feels smooth, continuous, embedded in three-dimensional space. But beneath that experience, in the quiet informational substrate of the cosmos, your movement might be the result of data, patterns, and encoded relationships, spreading across a distant surface, much like a holograph's patterns generate depth, form, and perspective. Not from within, but from the thin sheet that holds the encoding. The universe's horizon, the farthest boundary of what is observable, could be playing the role of that sheet, holding the information that describes everything inside, from atoms to galaxies to your own consciousness. The thought is soft, not intrusive. The world does not become alien or digital or artificial. It becomes deeper, more layered, more quietly intricate, like a melody that reveals new harmonies, new depths. The longer you listen, space, in this view, is not an empty container. It is an illusion of depth, arising from the relationships between bits of information stored elsewhere. Space becomes a kind of geometry of information, not a physical scaffold, but a pattern, emerging, unfolding, continually regenerated as the universe evolves, moment by moment, through the subtle computations of its underlying surface. This perspective does not flatten the world. It enriches it. It suggests that every point in space, every field, every wave, every particle, is connected to the farthest horizons of reality through an informational web, so delicate, so complete, that the boundaries of the universe hold the key to everything within. The analogy of a black hole's event horizon becomes more than a curiosity. It becomes a hint, a doorway, saying, look closely at the edges, for the edges may hold everything. The way the boundaries of a hologram hold the image, the way the surface of a lake holds the reflection of the sky, the way the quiet periphery of the cosmos may hold the story of space and time themselves. As you breathe, slowly, easily, you can imagine this horizon, not as something distant, not as something unreachable, but as a presence woven into the fabric of reality, enfolding everything, encoding everything, allowing information to flow inward as the universe unfolds, depth from surface, space from structure, experience from information. This gentle informational layer might be fractal, self-similar, woven with patterns repeating across scales, from the smallest quantum fluctuations to the largest cosmic structures, patterns that give rise to the geometry of space-time, the curvature of gravity, the arrangement of galaxies, the flow of energy, and the quiet laws that guide everything into being. Some physicists suspect that our familiar three-dimensional world is not fundamental, but emergent, that it arises the way temperature arises from atoms, or the way sound arises from vibrating air, a collective phenomenon born from deeper interactions that remain hidden beneath everyday perception. In this view, space, time, matter, and even gravity are emergent illusions, emerging not from the fabric of space itself, but from information, nudging itself into form, allowing the universe to blossom into complexity, into depth, into the world we know, and the consciousness that perceives it. There is a quiet beauty in this, a reminder that what feels solid is delicate, what feels simple is layered, what feels immediate is interconnected with everything, through a subtle mesh of information, woven across horizons, boundaries, surfaces, like an intricate tapestry, stretched across the universe, reflecting itself inward in endlessly unfolding patterns. And the world you experience, your body, your thoughts, your memories, may be part of that projection, not in a way that diminishes their reality, but in a way that reveals their depth, their embeddedness, their participation in the universe's informational dance. The image projected by a hologram has volume, shape, motion, but its true origin is elsewhere, in the fine-grained structure of the surface. The same might be true for you, for the world, for everything arising from an informational realm. More fundamental than space, more foundational than matter, more complete than anything we can see with our eyes. As this idea settles, softly, gently, it does not demand belief. It invites curiosity. It invites stillness. It invites the mind to drift into the subtle harmony between what appears and what is encoded, between the world we move through and the deeper informational surface from which that world unfolds. All the ideas for this section now rest gently in the air around you, like starlight drifting across a quiet horizon, soft, calm, complete. There is a quiet threshold, a soft border between the outer universe and the inner world of experience, a place where information, flowing outward from stars and inward from the body, meets the gentle presence of awareness. And here, in this subtle boundary, a question begins to unfold, not loudly, not abruptly, but like a slow sunrise, spreading its first pale light into the stillness of the mind. What is consciousness in a universe woven from information? Is it separate, or does it grow from the same informational fabric? Is awareness simply another pattern, another process, another expression of the universe's quiet logic? Or is it something different, something deeper, something that allows information to feel from the inside? Let your breath soften, let your thoughts drift without effort. This is not a place of conclusions, but of gentle exploration, a place where science meets introspection, and the line between them begins to blur. Just slightly, just enough to invite curiosity, without tension, without strain. The brain, in its immense stillness, even as you rest, is an engine of information. Every neuron, every synapse, every electric whisper is part of a vast network, processing patterns, integrating signals, updating its internal model of the world, moment by moment. The brain is not static, it is alive with computation, with structure, with transformation, as billions of interactions unfold quietly, continuously, creating the richness of perception, the texture of memory, the flow of thought. Information enters through the senses, light across the retina, vibrations through the cochlea, chemical traces drifting across the tongue, and each signal is translated into patterns, electrical, chemical, spatial, temporal, patterns that carry meaning, but only after they are interpreted, integrated, woven into the brain's quiet architecture. Integrated Information Theory, or IIT, offers one of the gentlest frameworks for understanding this. It proposes that consciousness arises not from individual neurons, but from the integration of information across a complex network. That awareness is what information feels like when it becomes tightly bound, self-referential, and intricately connected. When the parts of a system cannot be separated without changing the whole, something new appears, something unified, something that experiences itself as a single, coherent presence. This idea, soft, subtle, does not require mysticism. It simply says that consciousness is not located in one place. It is distributed, arising from the shape of information, flowing through the brain's networks. The way a melody arises from notes, not from any single note, but from their relationships, their timing, their structure. When neurons fire together in patterns, loops, waves, they generate a web of integrated information so deeply entangled that it cannot be reduced or broken into isolated parts. This irreducibility, this coherence, may be what gives rise to awareness, a feeling of unity, even though the brain itself is a collection of countless tiny processes. In this sense, your mind, your consciousness, is an emergent property, arising gently, inevitably from the flow of information, the integration of signals, the self-organizing properties of a complex system. It is the universe, reflecting upon itself through a biological pattern formed from atoms, fields, and information, woven together into an inner world that feels continuous, even as its underlying processes flicker in and out like stars behind a soft veil of clouds. Awareness, then, might simply be the cosmos experiencing its own information from within. And yet the brain is not isolated. It is immersed, entangled, deeply dependent on the world around it. Light, sound, temperature, the flow of time, the breath inside your chest, all of these streams of information enter and reshape the brain's patterns, moment by moment. This constant exchange, this interplay of inner and outer information, binds the mind to the universe, not as a separate observer, but as a participant, a continuation, a local expression of the informational processes that shape everything, from electrons to galaxies, even the boundary between the quantum and biological worlds. Once imagined to be sharp, is softer, more permeable than we first thought. Biology, with its delicate structures, its molecules, its flows of ions and charge, is deeply sensitive to quantum effects. Photosynthesis, enzyme function, olfaction all rely on quantum mechanisms, subtle, silent, operating beneath the threshold of awareness, yet shaping life and shaping the signals that life uses to understand the world. This does not mean the brain is a quantum computer, but it does mean that the informational substrate of life is richer, more delicate, more intertwined with the fundamental structure of reality than classical intuition would suggest. The universe, through the quiet logic of physics, has built biological systems that collect information, transform it, integrate it, and ultimately experience it as consciousness. Let this idea drift through you with ease, like a soft current moving past your skin. The mind you inhabit, the awareness settling into this moment, is not separate from the informational architecture of the cosmos. It is shaped by it, grown from it, an echo of the universe's deeper patterns, expressed in biological form. Your memories, your perceptions, your emotions are patterns, encoded in the structure of neural networks, updated when new information arrives, reorganized when old beliefs fade, stabilized by repetition, transformed by experience, softly rewritten by sleep. Everything that you are is dynamic, gentle, ever-shifting, like a slow tide moving across the shore of your inner world. This flow, this integration, this quiet processing is continuous even now as you listen, as you rest, as you drift. Information is being gathered, processed, filtered, widened, merged, the mind integrating new patterns while letting others dissolve into calm, into quiet, into the soft texture of night. Awareness does not force itself, it emerges, like a reflection in water, appearing when conditions are right, fading when the surface becomes still, yet always tied to the underlying structure, the informational flow, the gentle organization that supports it. In this way, consciousness, far from being separate from the universe, is one of its expressions, a lens, a window, a state of information that reflects the world inward and reflects itself outward, in perception, in thought, in understanding. There is no need for metaphysics here, no need for speculation, only a quiet acceptance that the brain is a system, born from stardust, shaped by evolution, equally shaped by physics, and capable of forming the most intricate patterns of integrated information, patterns that feel, from the inside, like awareness, like presence, like the soft glow of consciousness, illuminating the darkness behind closed eyes. As your breath slows, as your mind softens, you can feel that awareness itself is not something you must generate. It is already present, already woven into the structure of your experience, bubbling gently from the informational processes deep within the brain, rising moment by moment like light blooming at dawn. The universe, in all its vastness, may be calculating, computing, transforming information everywhere, always. But here within you, that information becomes something more. It becomes experience. It becomes presence. It becomes a quiet oasis, where the cosmos, through the delicate architecture of the brain, can know itself in a small, gentle, human way. And the awareness you feel, the stillness inside, is not separate from the cosmos. It is connected, woven, continuous. The same informational fabric, giving rise to particles and stars and fields, gives rise to your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, your quiet presence in this moment. All core ideas in this section have now been gently woven into place, softly, completely, like moonlight settling over calm water. There is a quiet rhythm beneath the movements of the universe, a slow, deliberate, almost meditative unfolding, as if reality itself is performing an endless calculation, not hurried, not mechanical, but natural, soft, and embedded in the very structure of existence. If everything is information, then the universe is not simply containing that information, it is using it, processing it, transforming it, moment by moment. The world might be computing itself. Not through circuits or silicon, but through fields, particles, interactions, and the deep rules that govern them. Imagine a fabric stretched across nothingness, woven not from threads, but from relationships, patterns, constraints, each point connected to others, each interaction meaningful, each event a small update, pushing the universe from one state to the next. This fabric, quiet, invisible, yet unfailingly present, is the computational structure of reality. In the stillness of this moment, you can feel how natural this idea is, that time itself may simply be the progression of information, the way one state becomes another, the way the universe steps forward, not mechanically, but through a gentle sequence of informational changes, like pages turning in a book, so slowly, so quietly, that you barely notice the transitions. One way to glimpse this is through simple systems, like cellular automata, small grids with simple rules, where black and white squares change based on their neighbors, rules that can be written in a single line, rules so simple you could memorize them in moments. And yet, when these rules unfold across step after step, time after time, something astonishing appears. Patterns, structures, movement, order, complexity, even behavior that resembles life emerges from rules so gentle, so minimal, that they feel almost trivial. And yet, these tiny systems can generate universes, filled with stable shapes, moving clusters, self-replicating patterns, and interactions that evolve endlessly. From the quiet logic of their rules, Conway's Game of Life, perhaps the most famous of these automata, shows how remarkably rich such systems can be. Each square is either alive or dead, and each step, the grid updates according to simple guidelines. Too many neighbors, and a cell dies. Too few, and it also dies. Just enough, and it lives, or is born. These rules create spirals, gliders, oscillators, structures that drift, structures that collide, structures that transform one another, all arising from the information encoded in a handful of lines. The universe, with its atoms, its fields, its laws, may be infinitely richer, infinitely more complex, but the core idea that simple rules can create vast complexity remains, quietly, beautifully true. If space and time and matter are built from information, then the universe is a natural cellular automaton, a rule-based system whose every moment flows into the next, guided by laws that act like computational instructions, telling reality how to evolve, what forms to take, how patterns emerge, how events unfold. This does not mean the universe is artificial. It means it is lawful, patterned, structured, deeply organized by informational rules, in the same way that a melody is organized by musical intervals, or a poem is structured by rhythm, or a river flows according to the contours of its banks. Information is the contour, the shape, the quiet logic that gives reality its form. Space, in this perspective, may not be a passive container. It may be a structure that organizes information, a kind of grid, a subtle geometry, within which the universe computes itself. Every point holding relations to other points, those relations forming the texture of distance, orientation, and dimension. The shape of space becomes the shape of information, woven through a network of connections that define how reality can move and how it can change. And time, softly, gently, becomes nothing more and nothing less than the updating of information, the quiet ticking of the universe's computational rhythm, a rhythm that unfolds with infinite patience, permeating the cosmos from the smallest quantum event to the slow turning of galaxies. Even matter, from this vantage, is information in motion. Organized into stable patterns, locked into place by the laws of physics, yet always shifting, always interacting, always exchanging energy, as the universe performs its ongoing calculation. When two particles collide, their encounter is not simply physical, it is informational. They exchange data, conserve quantities, follow rules that determine the result. Their motion, their scattering, their transformation is a computation carried out by the laws of quantum fields, mathematics unfolding as reality. Even a simple atom, with its electrons, orbitals, and energies, is a stable pattern, a computation in equilibrium, a solution to the rules that govern the behavior of fields, patterns that emerge from information, patterns that persist and build up the world we see, the molecules in your body, the air that surrounds you, the stars that burn softly across the night. These atoms, these molecules, these stars are the stable outputs of the universe's quiet processing, and you, your memories, your thoughts, your gentle awareness, arise from patterns built atop those layers, patterns that reflect the cosmos and perform informational computations of their own. There is a calm reassurance in this, a sense that nothing is arbitrary, nothing is disconnected. Everything, from the flicker of neurons to the rotation of galaxies, follows rules, soft, mathematical, deeply coherent. The entire universe is a harmony of information, resonating through time, expressing itself as physics, matter, motion, and life. And yet, this does not imply simulation, not in the artificial sense, not in the way we think of digital worlds or programmed environments. Instead, it suggests something more natural, more organic. The universe computes itself, in the way a seed grows into a tree, or a river carves its path, or a crystal forms its lattice. Computation not as artifice, but as unfolding. Growth, evolution, pattern. The laws of physics are not software imposed from outside. They are properties of the cosmos, woven into its nature, as inherent as the symmetry of a snowflake or the fractal branching of a fern. The universe is not being run, it is being itself, following the informational rules that define what it is and how it changes. Let your thoughts soften. Let the idea settle that you are drifting through a world where information is always in motion, always transforming, always evolving, and that your own mind, your own presence, is an expression of that same informational flow. You are part of the computation, a strand in the web, a pattern within the larger pattern, quietly participating in the universe's unfolding, moment by moment, breath by breath. The gentle rules that guide electrons and photons guide the chemistry of your cells, the architecture of your brain, the flow of your thoughts, the rise and fall of your awareness, everything, woven from one continuous informational fabric, one subtle logic, one unfolding computation that stretches from the smallest scales to the largest, unbroken, coherent, harmonious. As your mind drifts, you may sense that the distinctions between physics, biology, consciousness, and experience begin to soften, blur, dissolve, revealing a deeper unity, a single process, expressing itself in different forms. But always through information, always through its unfolding, always through the quiet, patient computation of the universe being itself. All the ideas in this section have now been gently carried through the air, settling softly, like drifting dust illuminated by moonlight. There is a softness at the edge of understanding, a gentle haziness, where clarity begins to blur, and the universe seems to fold into something deeper, something quieter, something that cannot be captured fully by equations or distilled into information. No matter how elegant or complete the description may seem, for all its power, the informational view of reality has boundaries, not walls, but horizons, places where knowledge thins, where patterns waver, where mystery quietly reasserts itself, reminding us that the universe, in its deepest nature, is larger than any frame we place around it, even a frame as broad and encompassing as information. Let your mind rest here, in this dim, dreamlike space, where curiosity continues, but urgency fades, where the limits of understanding do not feel like failures, but like invitations to breathe, to wonder, to drift into the subtle places where science and mystery meet. One of the first limits appears in the distinction between information and meaning. Information, as physics understands it, is structure, pattern, constraint, the set of possibilities for how a system may behave. But meaning is something else. Meaning is relational, experiential, contextual. It arises not from the structure of the universe, but from the way a conscious mind interprets that structure. Information can be measured, stored, transformed, but meaning cannot. It is not encoded in bits or fields or symmetries. It is a phenomenon of perspective, of awareness, of interpretation. You can hold a page of text, its letters arranged with perfect precision. The arrangement contains information, but the meaning of the words exists only through the mind. Information is objective. Meaning is lived, felt, experienced. And this simple distinction reminds us that even if reality is built from information, that does not capture everything. There is a dimension, soft, internal, quietly irreducible, that lies beyond physical description. Another limit emerges when we consider consciousness, not in its biological expression, but in its essence. Even if consciousness arises from integrated information, even if awareness is a pattern that emerges from complexity, the experience of being, the felt presence, the texture of sensation remains private, immeasurable, and unanalyzable from the outside. Physics can describe the brain, and information theory can describe its processing, but neither can fully capture the subjective glow of awareness itself. The emptiness of a quiet night, the subtle warmth behind the eyes, the softness of drifting toward sleep, these cannot be reduced to bits or equations. They belong to the inner landscape, a realm that scientific language brushes against, but never truly enters. And so the informational view reaches its boundary, a threshold where description gives way to experience, where knowledge yields to presence, where explanation fades into the simple act of being. Another place where the limits appear is in our understanding of the laws of physics themselves. We often treat them as if they were eternal, immutable, perfect, but we do not know where they come from, why these laws instead of others, why a universe that supports complexity, order, life, and consciousness. Why a cosmos in which information behaves the way it does. We can describe the laws, we can use them, we can measure them, but their origin remains a quiet and unbroken mystery, like a dark shoreline, seen only in silhouette, never in full illumination. Even the idea that the universe is information raises its own unanswered questions. If everything is information, what defines the informational substrate? What selects the rules through which the information evolves? What gives rise to the capacity for information at all? We can speak of structure, pattern, symmetry, fields, but the fact that any of these exist, that the universe is legible at all, that it obeys laws, that it maintains coherence, is itself one of the great and unyielding mysteries. In the quiet of the night, these questions do not feel heavy or troubling. They feel like a soft horizon, something the mind approaches, but never fully reaches. A reminder that the cosmos is infinite, not just in space, but in depth, in subtlety, in layers of understanding, waiting just beyond our reach. There are also mathematical boundaries, limits built into logic itself. Gödel's incompleteness theorems teach that any system rich enough to describe numbers must contain truths that cannot be proven within the system. In other words, there will always be facts that cannot be derived, always be limits that cannot be crossed, always be questions for which answers exist but can never be reached, not by proof, not by computation, not by information alone. This applies not only to mathematics, but to our understanding of the universe. There may be truths woven into the fabric of reality that exist forever outside our grasp, beyond all possible calculation, beyond all possible description. And this is not discouraging, it is beautiful. It means the universe is not a closed book, but an open landscape, endlessly deep, endlessly subtle, a place where wonder never ends. And curiosity never exhausts itself. No matter how much we learn, no matter how far our theories reach, another limit appears in the idea of initial conditions. Even if the laws of physics are informational rules, we still do not know why the universe began with the particular information it had, why those starting patterns instead of others, why a cosmos capable of stars, galaxies, chemistry, and life. Information can describe the evolution, but not the origin. The informational paradigm cannot answer why the cosmic ledger began at all, or what wrote the first line, or why anything exists rather than nothing. These are questions that hover just beyond the reach of science, like distant lights flickering at the edges of a wide, dark ocean. And yet, despite these limits, or perhaps because of them, reality feels fuller, deeper, softer, more wondrous. The presence of mystery is not a flaw, but a feature, a quiet invitation for the mind to explore and for the heart to rest, knowing that some things are meant to be understood only in feeling, not in calculation. Meaning, consciousness, the origin of laws, the reason for existence, the boundary beyond proof. These are not failures of knowledge, but the gentle edges of the map, the places where the universe folds inward and becomes intimate and still and infinitely soft, like the last light of evening, fading across a boundless horizon. Let your breath drift in and out. Let the mind float in this space of possibility, where knowledge and humility meet in quiet harmony. As you rest here, you may sense that the universe, even in its informational precision, holds room for wonder, for depth, for meaning, for the unexplainable beauty of simply existing. Science carries us far into the heart of reality, but mystery carries us further into the spaces where understanding dissolves into awe, where thinking dissolves into feeling, and where the cosmos becomes not an object to be analyzed, but an experience to be lived, from the inside, moment by moment, breath by breath, thought by thought. All the ideas for this section have now been gently and fully expressed softly, completely, like the dim glow of starlight, settling over a quiet landscape. There is a quiet moment, just before sleep, when the world grows soft and the edges of thought begin to blur. A moment when the mind no longer reaches outward and instead rests, floats, breathes in the gentle glow of its own inner light. And in that moment, the universe feels very close, not vast in a way that overwhelms, but vast in a way that comforts, as if the infinite is somehow intimate, a presence that cradles you with the same ease that night cradles the stars. You have drifted through many layers of understanding, through fields and probabilities, through entropy and horizons, through consciousness, computation, and the quiet limits of knowledge. Each idea, each reflection has been a point of light, a small star, guiding your awareness through the soft expanse of curiosity. And now, as the journey comes to its final breath, everything begins to settle, to slow, to quiet, like dust falling through a still beam of moonlight. The question that opened this journey still lingers, gentle, unchallenging, almost like a lullaby. Is everything just information? Perhaps. The universe may be made of patterns, relationships, constraints. The laws of nature may act like a quiet algorithm, updating the world moment by moment, like ripples moving across a cosmic sea. Matter may be excitations, fields may be equations, equations may be information, information may be physical, and the universe may compute itself with infinite patience, with unfailing precision. But this is only one layer. The cosmos, like consciousness itself, has depth, softness, mystery, and the informational view, for all its beauty, illuminates only part of the whole, a single harmony within a much larger symphony. As you lie here in stillness, you are part of that symphony. Every breath, every heartbeat, every quiet flicker of awareness is a strand of the cosmos, woven from the same fabric, shaped by the same laws, guided by the same patterns, yet also filled with something more, something the equations cannot fully hold, something that belongs entirely to you and to the intimate landscape of your own experience. There is a gentle unity in this, a reminder that the universe is not only outside you but within you, reflected in the atoms of your body, the currents of your thoughts, the softness behind your eyes. Your awareness is a continuation of the universe's unfolding, a quiet echo of information, integrated, made whole, made conscious. And even if everything is information, you are what information feels like, from the inside, warm, present, alive. The cosmos does not speak in words, but in structure, in patterns, in the slow evolution of reality. But here, in the quiet space of your own mind, that structure becomes experience. The universe looks out through your eyes, feels through your presence, and knows itself in a way that no equation can capture, no theory can contain, no description can fully express. As your body softens, as your breath deepens, as your thoughts drift into gentle shapes, you become part of a larger stillness, a vast, quiet expanse, where the boundary between inner and outer dissolves, slowly, softly, like mist fading into dawn. The stars, the galaxies, the unimaginable distances all feel closer now, not because you have moved toward them, but because the mind, in its calm, in its openness, recognizes the deep connection, the shared origin, the shared structure between the cosmos above and the consciousness within. There is no separation, only continuity, only the flow of information, the flow of energy, the flow of awareness, shaping itself into stars, into planets, into life, into you, into this moment, where everything rests in perfect stillness. If everything is information, it is information wrapped in wonder, bathed in mystery, woven with beauty, held together by laws that are precise, yet permissive, delicate, yet powerful, ordered, yet capable of giving rise to infinite variation, infinite forms, infinite expressions of being. Reality may be a tapestry, threads of information crossing, binding, unraveling, reweaving into the shapes we call matter, time, space, and consciousness. And you, right now, are one of those threads, a luminous strand woven into the great fabric, glowing softly, with awareness, with presence, with quiet curiosity, and with the gentle warmth of simply existing. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine the universe as a vast sea of patterns spreading outward like ripples in a tranquil pool. Each ripple, a bit of information; each interaction, a transformation; each moment, a new expression of the cosmic computation. And somewhere in that sea you are floating, weightless, supported, held by the same laws, the same patterns, the same quiet logic that guide galaxies and guide dreams. Let the night cradle you. Let the cosmos breathe around you. Let your awareness soften into the deep, gentle rhythm that moves through everything and connects everything into one continuous flow, one quiet harmony, one universal presence. You are part of that presence, part of that flow, part of that deep, infinite quiet. And as the universe continues its slow, patient unfolding, you can rest knowing that you belong to it completely and effortlessly, woven from its patterns, held within its structure, and embraced by its stillness. Now let yourself drift slowly, softly, into the calm, into the silence, into the long, gentle exhale of the universe, and sleep in the warmth of that infinite, quiet, cosmic peace.